It is 6 o'clock. And we'd like to welcome everybody here to the State Highway Commission meeting. And for anybody that's here that's from the public who would like to address the commission, and I'm not sure I see many, but if you are, there will be an opportunity later in the meeting for you to speak. And there'll be actually on this agenda 2 opportunities for you to speak. So with that, I would turn it back to Amanda. Call the roll.
For the record, the State Highway Commission is assembled in the Grand Island Community Meeting Room at 100 East First Street in Grand Island, Nebraska. The date is Thursday, October 24th, 2024, and the time is 6 p.m. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the room. Koppel.
Present.
Hawk.
Here.
Hendig.
Here.
Leifried.
Here.
McGinnis.
Here.
Mello. Wolford.
Here. The next item of business that we have on our agenda this evening is to review and approve the minutes of the August 23rd meeting.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Amanda?
Koppel.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Hendig.
Yes.
Leifried.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Mello. Wolford.
Yes.
I guess the next item we have here is introductions, but I think as the evening goes on here, we'll probably meet everybody again that's out here. So with that, Jim, I'll turn it over to you if you have any remarks for your evening.
Thanks, James. Welcome and thank everyone for being here. See a whole lot, but you know, roads bring success and they provide opportunity and safety. District 4 has 17 counties and 3 of the largest cities in the state. Grand Island is the 4th largest in the state with a population of 52,513. Serves a metro area of 83,472. There's a lot of things going on in Grand Island. And just to name a few, the Highway 30 West rebuild. Safety is the forefront of this project. It's a long-awaited project that's going full blast now. Camp Augustine was purchased by the city for recreational development and building of the new casino out in Fauna Park. The Prairie Commons development area, a lot going on out there, and the development of the Good Life projects area, including the Conestoga Marketplace. So there's a lot of things in Grand Island. And then going to Kearney, it's the 5th largest city in the state with a population of 33,790. Serves a metropolitan area of 56,758. A lot of activity going on in Kearney. The building of the new 209,000 square foot sports complex is a big project going on. The building of the new medical education building and a new joint venture with the UNMC, University of Nebraska Medical Center, and the UNK addition for educating doctors, nurses for the medical field. That's going to be huge for Kearney. Paul Giannis Hospitality Center. It's unbelievable the amount of conventions that he brings into Kearney every day and the amount of people that attend those. And there's a lot of residential and new business projects being built. And then the next city is Hastings. It's the 8th largest city in the state. Population of 25,152. Serves a metropolitan area of 38,190. One of the projects is the Hartwell Renewable. It's a joint venture between Love's and Cargill for producing 80 million plus gallons of renewable diesel to be distributed across the U.S. So we can't get that southeast project built fast enough. This is on the east part of Hastings. Western Reserve is a packing plant. They're going to double their size. They're going to be up to 1,100 beef processed per day. And then there's this new theater district where they've taken the old mall area, basically redone that. There's going to be several, well, today there's a 55 plus apartment complex there. There's a restaurant, there's going to be a supermarket, going to be some other retail places. And then the old Kmart building has been rejuvenated, and the Department of Health, they've got half of it already occupied, and the rest of it's going to be different. So there's a lot of things going on there. And then Hastings College is building a brand new dorm, tearing down a lot of the area, some of the dormitories, and they're going to rebuild all that. So it's a big project in Hastings. And there's a lot of housing developments going on in Hastings. There's over 500 homes and apartments set to start being built. So yes, roads bring success. And I guess the last thing I'd like to leave everyone is the casualties in Nebraska. It's almost unbearable this year. It's over 20% increase this year. And as I was reading the Kiplinger letter the other day, I didn't realize this, but the national average on casualties is down 3.2% this year. So the nation is down. I know we have great roads, stack up high there, but boy, we're sure trending, and we've got to change that. And what we need to do, and we need to stress this, buckle up, shut up, slow up, and pay attention. If we do those things, a lot of this would, and maybe that's a little harsh words, but we've got to do something in Nebraska to stop all these casualties. And it would be great, in my opinion, if the NDOT, the commissioners, if we would get behind and get everybody behind, try to aim for a 30-day period, 1 month with no casualties. And that might sound far-fetched, but it really isn't. But we've got to get the word out. We've got to do some things, and I think we all have a part in it. But just this last week, we had 2 or 3 young teenagers, 25 to 30 years old, on head-on collisions that got killed. And one of them was using an electronic device, it sounds like, veered over, got hit. There's just a lot of things that need to be done. And I think one of them is, I know everybody says it takes it serious, but I think we need to get out, and we really, as individuals in Nebraska, make a concentrated effort to start driving safer. I know Wes made a remark to me years ago. He said, I never want to see you driving. He was talking to me. I never want to see you driving without a seatbelt on. I don't know why he said that, because I always put it on, Wes. But anyway, the point of the matter is everybody's got to do their part. So anyway, turning it over to Wes.
We've got a couple of other items.
Okay, go ahead. Jim.
Oh, we do.
That's right. Well, I'll turn it over to him.
There were a couple of gentlemen that came in after my initial announcement, but there will be an opportunity for the public to address the commission later on in the meeting. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Khalil, who's sitting in for the director today. So Khalil, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. First of all, I really want to start by thanking the city for giving us the opportunity here to use the facility and hosting us. So thank you. I do have a few remarks, but before I do that, I do want to introduce some of our staff. And so and recognize one other person in the group. First of all, I know our District Engineer Wes Walgren will introduce his team as part of his presentation, so I won't do that. I also know that Lynn Heaton, our Director of Innovative Financing, will introduce his team and himself, so I'm not going to go in details, but I do want to recognize Mick Sislo, our Deputy Director for Operation here. Lily Kathy-Harner, she's our CFO, and then Jeff Schroeder, our Assistant Attorney General and Chief Counsel. Amy Starr, our Deputy Director for Administration. I get back to Amanda first, but I also want to introduce Rusty Summerall, the Assistant Division Administrator of Federal Highway. Thanks for joining us, Rusty. And of course, Amanda Calloway, she's our External Government Affair. For now, I'm going to introduce her as the Highway Commission Secretary Designee, but later on I'll do something different. Sarah Kluger, who you guys recognize from the old days when she used to be there. She's our transit manager, joining us here from Kearney. So thank you for coming there, Sarah. You know, for us as an agency, I think Commissioner Kindig brought some issues in regard to the safety aspect of things. And as an agency, I think we are taking this very, very serious, Jim, and we actually, as a state, to make progress towards zero death, we are collaborating with the governor's office and our partners to trying to put a safety package next legislative session. That will include a seatbelt as a primary. It'll include work zone review, speed enforcement. It will include variable speed enforcement in climate weather. It will also include potential hand-free laws of some sort. Those are just the high-level pieces that Director Kramer has been talking about, and we've been engaging all our partners and safety advocates to trying to push these through, and hopefully that will at least give us some positive steps toward that zero death that we've been aiming at for the longest time. Safety is always at the cornerstone of everything we do in our engineering or operation. And so there's absolutely is a key issue that we want to achieve and finalize, and hopefully we hope with everybody's help that we can be successful. I do want to just talk a little bit more. Our district engineer will go through that. We're excited about a lot of the different things that we've done across the state with a lot of different construction projects, and looking forward to Wes's presentation. But, not to really focus also on an item that Mr. Heaton will introduce with his team, is the continuation of the discussion on the bonding and, the progress that we made and how we can set the stage, if you will, and recognize that this will be a huge effort for the state, so we can actually go after some of these projects that we've been talking about for a very, very long time. And our team looking forward to their presentation, and we'll be ready to answer any questions that the commission or others have. The last piece that I want to share with the group, we were optimistic that we end up with a full year appropriation, funding appropriation. I look at our partner for Federal Highway smiling. Unfortunately, that's not what we got, not a full year, but a stopgap of some sort. Congress, passed a continuous resolution that took us all the way to December 20th only. And so as a state, we're always, cautious when we see short resolutions. It does disrupt our planning. It does kind of impact our project delivery. And so we are making some very tough decisions, trying to decide what projects can go forward and what projects can sit a little bit and be delayed some just based on the projection of funding. And so it is a cash flow issue for us, and we're very concerned. And hopefully we see an action after the election. Doubt it, but I think we're optimistic. So I want to thank the commission for everything you do for the state and for the citizen of Nebraska. And look forward to tonight's presentation. And with that, I turn it back to John.
Okay. Thank you, Khalil. The next item of business on our agenda this evening is the appointment of a Highway Commission Secretary. And Khalil and I visited about this a little bit beforehand here, and so I'm going to turn it back to him to introduce Amanda and tell us a little bit about it.
Will do, and thank you. Kind of exciting things. Should have formalized that, but we didn't. And so this is a way to formalize it by including that as part of our remarks and this item. So Amanda started working for Nebraska Department of Transportation about 4 months ago as the Highway External Affair Manager. In her role, she works with the public involvement and communication teams on community engagement. So before that, when we hired Amanda, she came to us and she worked for state senators. Maybe I leave her name for the record, so we'll just say a former or state senators in the Nebraska legislature, where she researched policies, wrote bills, and supported the senators in her district. So now we disclose the other part. She has prior experiences in nonprofit where she coordinated communication and worked with a lot of communities. We are thrilled to have Amanda, and Director Kramer extend her full support in basically recognizing Amanda as the next secretary for the Highway Commission. With that, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Khalil. We are required to pass a resolution here, so if there's further discussion about this appointment, now would be the time.
Move to adopt the resolution as proposed.
It's been moved and seconded.
Okay.
Amanda?
Excuse me, Koppel,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Indig, Chief Green,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Mello,
Yes.
Wolford,
Yes.
and also.
Welcome aboard.
Mm-hmm.
As that's circulating to get the rest of this commission signatures, we'll move on to the next item of business. And that is the appointment of a vice chair due to the passing of Commissioner Fagerland. It is my understanding that Commissioner Leafgreen has agreed to take that on for the remainder of 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
So with that, I would be looking at a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Koppel,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Indig,
Yes.
Chief Green,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Mello,
Yes.
Wolford,
Yes.
Now, Wes, that brings it to you for the district court
I
presentation.
believe it's Eric first.
For Eric first.
I can introduce Eric. This is Eric Klein. He's a District 4 construction engineer, and he's going to do a presentation on the pavement management system. I think he did one at one of our stand down days, and Director Kramer really liked it, and I thought it'd be nice to have him do it for you.
All right, so Eric Klein, I've been in the state for 2011, out here in District 4, but you're just for a little time. And we're gonna talk about, or I'm gonna talk about the pavement optimization program here. You see the arrow right down here. All right. So District 4 statewide, we have a lot of highways. At Wellmean West, in Ben Merchant, our Director of Operations, District 4, we're out meeting with our people in the field, having lunch with them, a question we got from a lot of them was like, hey, why are you resurfacing our buddy's road down the street and not our road? How do you make these decisions? And it's a question that we get from the public. Really, a lot of decisions are still made with our eyes and our ears, but it's really easy for the public and for anybody else to tell you what road we need to do now and what road we need to do tomorrow. But as you know, survey, design, permitting, we need more time. We need to be looking years in the future. This all takes time. And luckily, our friends, Material and Research, our Business Technology Department, they've helped us out with this program. Within all these highways we also have many different sections. Highway 14 is not the same at the Kansas border as it is in Fulton. Different traffic, different material, different environment. All right. One of the things that M&R helps out with is we have a van, a vehicle that drives around every mile of the state every year. It has cameras on it, much like Google, taking pictures of everything, and it has a bunch of sensors on it, sensing cracks, rutting, everything else along our roadways. And that's all compiled into this system that we have here. So it's a great resource for us to view, for us to look at, for us to. One of the things that we turn into at the end of collecting all this data is this NSI number. This is a Nebraska Serviceability Index. And this compiles a lot of the cracking data, the pavement data that we have, the age of the roadway. And as a state, we've determined that we want the state average in the mid-80s. So let's see, Highway 14 here, south of Nelson, that's south of Nelson. That's an 88. That's what we want to see. Now within this segment, there must be a small portion of road that's at a 74. So a little behind where we want to see it in average, but that's where we want to be. We also have present serviceability index, similar to the NSI, PSI, but age isn't really a factor. It's kind of what that road is today compared to some other roads. And the things that go into that and the NSI, along with our joints are cracking, we have our maintenance costs. Maintenance costs are a big thing. What are causing our people on ground issues? And even though it's technology and we have those numbers, you still need the personnel to know what you're doing. Highway 14 south of Nelson, I can tell you that most of this maintenance costs are put into the asphalt on the roadway themselves. However, we're talking about Highway 14 north of Nelson, I can tell you that most of those costs are probably on the shoulders rather than pavement. So even though we have a program to help us out, telling us what we're spending, it still takes people to figure out where we're spending that money. It's traffic. We count all the roads or every year. What we try to do, different segments all the time. So it's not only how much traffic, but how much of that traffic is trucks. Kind of an 80-20 rule. People know, 20% of our traffic does 80% of our damage. It's probably even higher than that, to be honest. So knowing where our heavy trucks are, where our grain silos are, where our feedback, but it's really important. And of course, safety. This is what we want to see. Highway 14, South Nelson, no crash last year. This is what our goal is. So not only is it telling us where there's cracks and where there's ruts, it's also telling us what the road's composed of. So our maintenance guys, they're going out to patch a roadway. They can come here and look, hey, am I going to patch 6 3/4 inches of asphalt, or am I going to patch 6.5 inches of asphalt on top of 8 inches of concrete? So it's not just data of how the road's doing today, it's what that road's composed of, all in one location. And because I put this together for our guys, it's also easy to query, easy to export, easy to figure out things like, hey, what's the oldest road in District 4? And this looks like we have some concrete pavement in North Loop that's been there 88 years. That's good to hear. Also noteworthy on this is looks like we have some asphalt in Hubble. It's 50 years old. That's incredible. One thing that helps out with that 50-year-old asphalt in Hubble, not a lot of trucks. So it makes it a little bit easier to keep that asphalt out in good shape when we don't have it getting beat up a whole lot. So another thing we hear from our guys a lot are, hey, we may not have all those cars they do in Grand Island or Omaha, but we sure have a lot of trucks. Well, fact check that. For all trucks, well, they're on the interstate. Surprise, surprise, going across there. 40% of our traffic on the interstate, less half District 4 is trucks, and that increases the farther you go west. Back when not the interstate, well, it's a 4-lane expressways. That's where trucks are next. That makes sense. So that's why they're 4 lanes. That's where we want the trucks. But most of our highways are 2-lane roads. And our guys still want to know that they have more trucks than their neighbor. So where are our trucks on 2-lane roads? Well, they're everywhere. They're at the Kansas border down on Highway 8. They're on 81 or on 4 by Bruning. They're on 6 up in the Grafton. They're up in Central City. They're up in Greeley. They're up in Red Cloud. We have trucks everywhere. No real winners in the whole, hey, we have more trucks than you debate when it comes to percentage wise. In addition to having our data, it also does some things like life cycle cost analysis. What that kind of does is we can put it into some numbers like funding. I put this presentation together last year, so I think this is the number District 4's program for construction last year, which is $48 million. We can tell the program, hey, we'll give you a maintenance project, a 3R project, and a reconstruction project, and you know what they cost. And tell us what we should do, where we should spend our money, and what'll happen to our roadways. And if we spend $48 million every year for the next 5 years, last year, they'll go in there, they'll predict pavement deterioration, they'll select some future projects, and they'll evaluate the future pavement conditions. And this is what we get, which is not exactly what we want. But luckily, we're not spending $48 million in District 4 every year for the next 5 years. It's going to be increasing. So if we put in the actual numbers that we have programmed in District 4, we're hoping to see a graph that looks more like this. So there's little downtrend currently. When you have a bunch of roads that are different cycles in their life, you have some 10-year cycles, 15-year cycles, 20-year cycles. Eventually, they're going to overlap. And in a couple of years, where you go down. But we got the plan in place to go up. So we're looking good. Another thing M&R does is they put together, so part of this, M&R puts together a candidate list for us. When they run their life cycles every year, I think we just got one 2 weeks ago, bring out the candidate list of, hey, here's what the program thinks we should be doing. And something like this. So this is, I think, what the program thinks we should do in 2029. It looks like this. And as you're on the right, you can see the programs that we already have programmed, that we're already planning on doing prior to 2029. And the program says, well, hey, we should consider these other sections of road also, which is, it's sometimes it still needs eyes and ears. The computers are still limited. They don't know everything we know. They just know how many cracks there are. And you can see some things on the right. It's still data dependent, pacing to Harvard. We're not working on that this year. I'm not sure what was in our system that triggered it to say we have a program program in 2024 because we don't. And as the program says, probably shouldn't have one in 2024. It should probably be in 2029. Farther down the list, Kennesaw, Juniata, as much as Ken Dave would like to think maybe he had something to do with that, really, those are in 2025 because we're doing Highway 6 in 2025. And we're doing Highway 6 right past Kennesaw and right past Juniata. It's a no-brainer, cost savings, time savings to do those spurs when you're doing Highway 6. But it's a good, thing to evaluate for me and West of, hey, is what we're seeing what the data is representing. And I think based on this, I think we're looking good. We've identified the roads, most of the roads that they're identifying, and we have some opportunities to maybe identify some more roads. So that's all I have. It's kind of an overview of our POP program and how we use it to assist us in determining how our roads are going to be doing in the future.
Pretty interesting, Abel. Thank you.
My computer's stuck.
Okay, this is going to be my presentation. I'm just going to be going over projects that we have coming up in the district, select projects. I want to welcome everybody to the district board and thank the Highway Commission for coming out to the district and listening to us and hearing what our needs are. This is a District 4 overview. As Jim said, we have 17 counties in south central Nebraska. Our population is close to 215,000. We have 9,751 square miles, 1,709 center line miles of highway. And these center line miles, or these miles of highway contain 110 miles of Interstate 80 and 138 miles of expressway. There's also 623 bridge link structures in the district. Bridge link structures is anything 20 foot or more clear span from abutment face to abutment face. As Jim alluded to, we are having issues with safety on our roads, and seat belts. Everybody should be wearing a seat belt, and anybody that's in your vehicle should be belted in. Seat belts can increase your chances of surviving a severe crash by 50%. And if we could get people to do that, we'd really make a lot of headway in our fatalities. Then the phone down. We're seeing a lot of phone use, like texting. And I stop at an intersection in town. I look around, and the cars all around me, everybody's looking down at their phone. And then they pull away and it looks like they're drunk. You know, it's distracted driving is really a major issue. We had an employee killed a year ago, and it's a major thing losing an employee. We're having, I think there was 2 employees killed last year, and then we had an employee hit this year, flag in. So it's like we need people to put their phones down and pay attention to their driving. I'm going to go over our capital improvement projects first, and the Build Nebraska Act projects that we've got coming up. We've got US 6 Hastings Southeast from the east end of the current 5-lane section on J Street in southeast Hastings to Showboat Road, just beyond Showboat Road. The project length is 2.4 miles. The estimated cost on this is $33.2 million. This just shows the where the project's located. Then we have this one we're actually building right now, as Jim said. This is US 30, US 281 west of Grand Island. Goes from the west end of the current 4-lane section, west of US 281 in Grand Island to just west of Monitor Road. Project length on it is approximately 3.9 miles. The contract cost on it is approximately $33.6 million. It's a 4-lane section that's divided, that's going to be built out to Monitor Road. We've moved a lot of fill already on it, and they've placed quite a bit of concrete pavement already. I think is pavement 13 inches on this, Eric, or okay. Then we have US 81 York to Columbus. This is an expressway project. Goes from the north end of the York bypass 4-lane to the 4-lane, connects to the 4-lane south of Columbus. Project length on this is 41 miles. The estimated cost on this is $400 to $450 million. We just had the public hearing for the Environmental Protection Act on this a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, Commissioner Kennedy? And we're gathering public input. I think they're starting to meet with property owners that will be affected by the project. This project will be probably broken into shorter segments. It's a 2+2 strategy, so we'll be building 2 lanes adjacent to the existing 2 lanes, and we're necking down to 3 lanes and going through the towns, which would be Stromsburg, Osceola, and Shelby. Probably the earliest we would start, depending on funding, would be 2029. I'll go into the planning process. Each district is allocated a budget based on its 20-year needs and the amount of funding available. The district engineer selects the projects. I also depend a lot on Eric and on Ben Merchant, our district operation maintenance manager, and our maintenance employees and construction employees. Some of the tools used to select projects are the pavement management system that Eric went over. I like the Nebraska Serviceability Index. It's like a grade for the pavement. Like 100 would be a new pavement, perfect pavement, a 0 would be failed. the International Roughness Index. Then we also use the bridge management system, traffic counts. I'm saying accident reports, but that should be crash reports. There's no such thing as an accident. Everything is a crash. And then public input, which is what we're here today for. Going over the program book, and the program book is located on our website. It's available on our website, dot.nebraska.gov. So I'll be going over the projects on it. Fiscal year 2025 projects are shown in red. Page 20 contains 18 projects with an average estimated cost of $4.2 million, totaling $75 million. Fiscal year 26 through 30 projects are shown in blue on the map. In the pages, that's on pages, they're listed out on pages 21 through 24. They contain 89 projects with an average estimated cost of $6.6 million and totaling $591 million. These numbers do not include the capital improvement projects discussed earlier. This is the map that's in the program book. You can see the red and the blue. The reds are coming up, the blues are there. I think, Gary, those on Highway 6 were moved back. So, Jim, just for your information. Okay, here's selected 2025 projects. Okay, this is on spur S1C. It's a Hastings Regional Center spur bridge. It's a project, its estimated cost is $1.9 million. ADT on it is $955. We're going to replace the bridge. It's a three-span, pre-stressed concrete T-beam girder. This is a picture of the deck from the inspection that was conducted in 2003. You can see the deck is showing a lot of distress. Since that time, it's had an asphalt wearing surface and it's showing distress. So, and the deck is actually part of the structure. So it's time to be replacing the structure. Next, we have Nebraska 2 Hazard East. This is a mill resurface bridge. Project length is 6.2 miles. Estimated cost is $7.3 million. The ADT on Highway 2 here is 1,529. This is a picture of the pavement. This would be towards the east end of the project looking west. You can see the Burlington Northern Railroad parallel to highway at this location. Here you can see some of the cracking that we're seeing around the joints and towards the edge of the concrete pavement. This is alkali silica reactivity. The alkali in the cement and fly ash is reacting with the silica in the aggregate, and moisture dries it, and it essentially blows your pavement apart. So we're going to be turning this road black. Then we have US 6, the Grafton area. This is a resurfacing project, 6.2 miles long. Estimated cost $2.3 million. ADT here is 1,688. This is going to be a peptide project where we mill tube, place tube. This is just a shot right west of Fairmont, looking west back towards Grafton. That'll extend this pavement quite a while. We have US 6 in Fairmont and East, mill resurface bridge. Project length is 11.9 miles. Estimated cost for this is $10.2 million. ADT is 1,928. This road doesn't look bad, but a few years ago, we had like 2 to 3 inch ruts develop on it, hot weather. Maintenance went in and did profile mill and a chip seal on it, extended to the project. I'm going to be happy to see this one go. This is right west of Exeter, looking east. Here we have Nebraska 11, South Junction, Nebraska 58, and Nebraska 92. This goes from the school, which is Ventura Public School, north to the Highway 92 intersection. We're at the intersection with Highway 92. This is a mill resurface bridge. Project length is 12 miles. Estimated cost on it is $6.8 million. ADT is 1,027. This is a shot of the pavement. It's a tire pavement. It'll get a deeper strategy on it. Then we have US 30, which is US 30 University Drive. This is the intersection project. It's a partnership between the city of Kearney, UNK, University of Nebraska Kearney, and the state. Kearney will be building this project, and it enters where Kearney's doing a massive a massive, building campaign for their new medical center and whatnot. That's going southwest of the TB hospital there. The project length is 0 mile, it's an intersection, $1.6 million. ADT is 11,310. This is, looking through the, intersection from the north looking south. You can see what they're building there. It's like huge what they're putting in there. This is what we're planning on building here, a roundabout. The TB hospital is up in the upper right-hand corner. Then we have US 30 Corning East. This is just a lighting project. It's only estimated at $700,000. These lights that the city of Corning maintains them. They're having a lot of troubles with broken wires on the power supply. They can't get parts for the style that's there, so we're going to replace them with modern lights. We have Nebraska 39 Genoa area. This also includes Nebraska 22 east of Genoa. This is a resurfacing project. It'll be a PEP-type job, just like the Grafton to Fairmont project was, to extend the pavement life. Project length is 21.2 miles. Estimated cost $5.9 million, and its ADT is 1,339. This is near the Platte County line, which would be the district line, looking west towards Genoa. You can see it's showing some distress here. In Nebraska 41, Clay Center East, the mill resurface, project length 11.6 miles, estimated cost $5.3 million. ADT here is only 563. This is an older pavement, but it would be nice to get a fresh surface on this. Nebraska 74 Ong Spur to US 81. This includes the Shipley Spur. It's a mill resurface bridge. Project length is 13.3 miles. Estimated cost is $9 million. ADT here is 905. This will run from approximately the Ong Spur all the way to US 81. This is just a shot of the pavement. Nebraska 74 Strang Spur East. This includes the Strang and Ohio spurs. This is a mill resurface, project length 11.7 miles, estimated cost $7.4 million. ADT is 571. This is an older pavement. We want to get a new surface on it. I-80 Hampton to York. We've been experiencing crossovers on the interstate. The cable median barrier, I'm sure all of you have seen it, this side of Lincoln, and we're putting in more of it. It's eventually going to go clear across the state. This project will get Hampton to York, and the project length is 15 miles. Estimated cost is $10.3 million. ADT here is 26,080. And it grows up. Here. This is just a shot of what we installed this year from York east, from the Wayville interchange. So you can see the median barrier running down the center of the median. Then we have US 81 Strongsburg North. It's a carryover project. It's to resurface the highway. Project length is only 4.1 miles. Estimated cost on it is $4.7 million. ADT here is 3,565. This pavement needs a lot of help. It's got the ASR issue similar to the Highway 2 pavement. There's just a close-up looking at the pavement. And this will get a 4-inch asphalt overlay on it with patching. That concludes the 25 projects. We'll now look at the 26 projects. We have Nebraska 4, Davenport East, mill resurface bridge. Project length is 13 miles. Estimated cost is $5.8 million. ADT is 777. This is east of Davenport, looking west. The grade UP Railroad crossing is just at the top of the hill there. You can see the pavement's in poor condition on this, but we're glad to get this one done. US 30 Chapman West is a mill resurface. Project length is 8 miles. Estimated cost is $5.9 million. ADT here is 6,545. This is right at the end of the where it transitions from the 4-lane east of Grand Island to down to the 2-lane section. We'll be replacing full depth here for this section. It's been giving us a lot of issues, and the rest of it will get an overlay. US 30 Central City East. This is a mill and resurface, project length 8.2 miles, estimated cost $4.3 million. ADT here is 4,068. This is right east of Central City on the north-south section. At the curve is where it turns and goes east again. You can see that the pavement has get some falling in it. Then we have I-80 Odessa to Kearney eastbound. This, we're going to construct the eastbound 2 lanes with this project. So it's 2-lane new pavement, grading structure, concrete pavement. Project length is 9.3 miles. Estimated cost is $37.6 million. ADT here is 21,032. This is just a shot. We had trouble with the center line joint and the edge joint. That's where you have problems with getting compaction on asphalt. And usually that's where we had to start having distress. We used a gap massing joint filler for this. We also did this on the west of Elm Creek to try to get it through where we're head-to-head traffic. And it hasn't held up good there where we have a lot of traffic that's putting wheels on it. But this section has held up nicely. Then we have I-80 Gilder to Hampton. It's a cable median barrier project. This will be the next section, 14 miles. Estimated cost $9.9 million. ADT here is 25,752. And again, I'm just showing the same Waco bridge photograph that I showed earlier. US 183 Elm Creek to Miller. This is a mill resurface bridge. Project length is 14.4 miles. Estimated cost is $18.3 million. ADT here is 795. 183 is a major route for overdimensional loads. This is one of the smaller overdimensional loads that we see. But I mean, like, we get, I don't know how many we get a year that are going from Kansas, north and to South Dakota and further. And it's one of our major routes for overdimensional loads. This is one that they sent out. This is a state patrol escorted load, but it's 26 foot 7 inches wide. So compare it to that trailer house that I showed. This is a major width for a load. This is a fill section on that. We also get like overloads on it. So we're looking forward to beefing this up, and we're going to be adding 6-foot shoulders on this. And then I think Eric was wrong on the oldest pavement in the state. We have US 281 in Red Cloud. It's an urban project. The project length is 1.3 miles. Estimated cost is $6.8 million. ADT here is 2016. This is an old brick pavement in Red Cloud. I think it's 100 years or more old, and it's really getting wavy and bad, especially south of where I took this image. We are going to put brick pavers back on a concrete base because this is on the National Register because it's a Lola Cather childhood home. She was a child that grew up in this town. A lot of her stories were based in Red Cloud, so they are getting a little brick back. With that, that's the end of my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions or.
Thank you, Wes and Eric. Very informative. Looks like we've got our hands full for the next few years. Any comments or questions from the commission? If not, as I stated a few minutes ago here, we would accept public comment at this time on the District 4 presentation. So if there's anybody here who would like to address the commission on that. I would also ask if there were any letters submitted, and I know that there has been one included in the commissioner's information packet.
Yes, we did receive one letter from Ms. Sharon Noyd that was addressed to the commission. If you'd like to accept that into the record.
Yes. So no comment. See,
Would be is just on what you presented or something else.
well, there'll be an opportunity after we go through the bonding part.
Making sure that when I get with.
Yeah, for public comment on that portion of the meeting. Okay. So with that in mind, the next order of business in front of the commission here is to have Lynn, our Chief of Staff, Innovative Finance Director, come forward and make his presentation to the commission on bond financing.
Good evening. Commissioners, it's nice to see you again. Lynn Keaton, Director of Innovative Finance and Chief of Staff for the Department of Transportation. With me here this evening, Scott Keene of Piper Sandler, our financial advisor, as well as Greg Dietrich of Tech Rock, our bond counsel. So they've worked with the NDO team to get us to today, and they'll continue to work with us as we go over the coming months. We do have a presentation for you before we begin discussing the documents themselves. First, I want to give you a recap of the next slide, please. First, I'd like to give you a recap of the August meeting. There's a few things. We discussed NDOT's approach to bond financing at that time, the legal authority provided by the state constitution and statute, and bonding concepts and processes. So the department's approach will be financing provides a new option to expedite critical highway projects, positively impacting the state and communities sooner. Issuance would be selective, such as targeting expressway system projects that are ready for construction, but that lack funding. NDOT would balance use of financing with a pay-as-you-go approach, always ensuring that we keep within the responsible limits provided by the legislature. And finally, financing shares costs of near-term capital improvement projects with highway users 15 plus years in the future. Slide. So the statutory guardrails, just a quick reminder. These are the, if you will, the maximums or the constraints that the legislature placed on any issuance of bonds by the department. So for instance, the principal, the sum total principal of all bonds that would be issued cannot exceed $450 million under the Nebraska Highway Bond Act. The annual debt service payments cannot exceed $35 million. No bonds for any projects can be issued under current law after June 30, 2029. All bonds must be paid in full by June 30, 2042. And finally, bonds are payable only from the State Highway Capital Improvement Fund, which includes revenues dedicated under the Build Nebraska Act, or specifically as the Build Nebraska Act provided for expressway system projects, federally designated high priority corridors, and other surface transportation projects as designated by the department. And so what you'll hear from us today is the expressway system being today's priority, and especially, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. Timeline of events. At your August meeting, we shared with you this timeline. In the interest of time, I'll cover just a couple of things this evening. Number 3, today, we are reviewing with you the initial final drafts of the bond resolution and the bond indenture documents. And we're also providing for you a resolution to approve today the appointment of Union Bank and Trust as bond trustee. After today, the next step for the commission will be at your December 6th meeting, number 6 on this timeline, at which time the department will make a formal recommendation that you approve the bond resolution and bond indenture of trust for the Highway 275 Expressway Corridor Completion Project. Then, as I said, on December 6th, which is number 6, the working group will have a final presentation and that recommendation pursuant to statute, and we will at that time seek your approval. Slide. So I did introduce Scott and Greg, but just thought you might like to have their pictures as well. So And and so the project, so the Highway 274, 275 Expressway corridor. The project, in bond financing, it's necessary to define, quote unquote, the project to be funded with the proceeds of the sale of the bond. At your December meeting, we intend to recommend issuing bonds to complete the Highway 275 Expressway corridor, namely the blue segment you see on this map between Norfolk and West Point. And so, as you know, the Highway 275 project includes the construction of a 2+2 expressway system corridor, improving safety, as Commissioner Kindig and Wes were referencing, and as well as Deputy Director Jabber. So improving safety and providing significant economic benefits. So Highway 275 Expressway corridor, the project will fulfill the legislature's intent to continue development of the expressway system, improve connectivity, including for farm and commercial vehicles as well as passenger vehicles, with other important expressway and interstate connections. It will reduce the annual corridor delay to 477,300 vehicle hours between Norfolk and West Point, which is expected to worsen absent completion of the expressway corridor as traffic volumes increase in this area. And it maximizes the use of existing transportation infrastructure and improves the reliability and condition of existing assets. So Greg Dietrich, our bond counsel from QTAC Rock, with feedback from Scott Keene and the NDOT working group who are here with us today behind us, have prepared several documents for the commission's review today. Greg, would you please lead us through an explanation of the purpose of these documents? And commissioners will start with the resolution to approve the issuance of bonds, which again, today is still in draft form. This would be one of the two documents that we would not recommend you approve until your December. I'll turn it over to Greg.
Thanks, Glenn. And thank you for having me again. Again, it's Greg Dietrich, attorney with QTAC Rock, and we're bond counsel. Good to be with you again. As Lynn said, I'll start with the bond resolution. And really, if you look at the statute, it talks in terms of you approving the bonds pursuant to resolution. Indeed, probably any action you guys take is by resolution. So that's what we've done, is we put together a bond resolution. Much shorter than the indenture, but there's a couple of things that it takes care of that has to be taken care of. Number one, you have to take the official action. So the resolution is the official action that would approve the issuance of the bonds. And then the resolution itself contains a number of things. First of all, it contains the parameters that you would be approving, and what that means is it's going to approve the maximum amount of bonds, maximum principal amount of bonds that you're approving be issued. You're approving the maximum principal rate that you would allow bonds to issue at. You're approving the maximum maturity that we allow. And you're approving the actual project that you're going to allow the proceeds of the bonds to be applied to. The resolution also makes a number of determinations that the commission's required to make under the statute. You have to determine that the bonds aren't going to go beyond the latest maturity. You have to approve that they're not being issued beyond the latest date that they can be issued. All of that you're aware of. And there's a number of other determinations that the commission has to make by statute. So those are all in the resolution. And that's section 2. Section 3, you authorize the sale of the bonds either through a competitive sale, which is what our plan is, or a negotiated sale where you actually hire an underwriter to go out and sell them. At the moment, the plan is to do it as a competitive sale, meaning essentially have an auction. But you're approving both. The thought is conditions might change. That might be determined that you'd be better off with an underwriter to help you out. It approves the execution of not only the indenture, but a number of other documents. And then finally, it also approves the delegation of signing authority to the director, the deputy director, the director of innovative finance. There's a lot of documents that will be put on the table for closing. The thought is you want to delegate authority to the folks at NDOT to sign those documents at the closing, provided that the bonds are structured within those parameters that you. So that's the resolution. I don't know if you want
Maybe
to.
just go on to the indenture of trust, first, and then leave it to your discretion, Commissioner. If you'd like to take questions at that time before we go on to the appointment of trustee, which you will be voting on.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give, if you look at the documents, a pretty high overview of them. If you have questions, you can either ask them, you can shoot us email, as Lynn had said before. And his email will be sent to draft that. So moving to the indenture is the agreement that really the bonds are issued under. It's an agreement between the issuer, which in this case is the commission, and a trustee, which is typically a large bank. And the trustee is going to act as a fiduciary really on behalf of the bondholders. It's going to enforce the indenture, the provisions of the indenture for the benefit of the bondholders. But the indenture itself describes all of the terms of bonds. So just really quickly, Article 1 is just the definitions that are applied. Article 2 really describes the authorization for the bonds themselves. It describes what they're going to look like, whether they're going to have serial maturities, the interest rate. And it also authorizes the issuance of additional bonds and refunding bonds. And additional bonds, I think we talked about a little bit back in August. The idea is that the indenture here is you can use this indenture for this initial issuance of the 2025 A bond for whatever principal amount you decide on. But we can also issue additional bonds later on, up to $450 million maximum, after you approve such additional issuance with another resolution. So we'd be back here, but we should be able to use the same document for the next issuance as well as if interest rates go down and you want to refund them, we should be able to issue refunding bonds for the same occasion. And then Article 3 talks about the redemption of the bonds. Like I said, if the rates go down and we want to refund them, Article 3 allows you to redeem the bonds under the conditions described in that section. Both the commission and the trustees have to give a few covenants, and those are going to show up in Article 4. I mean, the biggest one for the commission is your covenants to pay the bonds, and also to comply with the tax requirements to make sure the accounts are taxable. And then Article 5 and 6, it's just some accounting stuff. They set up various funds. We always have a number of different funds under an indenture. The first one is a bond fund, and the bond fund is really just that is what the trustee has to pay monthly or semi-annual or annual principal and interest. Its money from the state will go into that fund prior to any principal and payment date. Trustee will use that to pay principal and interest. The more important one, I think, is Article 6, the construction account. That's where the proceeds of the bonds, if we issue 150 million, those will go into that construction account held by the treasurer, even though it's described in the indenture, and it will be drawn upon the book to pay costs of the project. Article 7 describes how those monies can be invested, and our bond act tells us how those funds can be invested until they're actually applied. So we want to make interest on those monies while they're sitting there. Article 7 is how you defease the bonds. Defeasement meaning if there's a point in time where you can't refund them, but you want to get the state released from the lien of the $150 million, there's a process by which that can be done. Article 11 are events of default, essentially non-payment, and what the remedies would be, and that's separation, just like any loan. And then that's really it for the indenture. Everything else is, as non-attorneys call boilerplate, means something to us. How we do it. So that's the indenture. I know I raced through it, but again, if you have questions. And then finally, we've got a smaller resolution that we were thinking it made sense for you to consider and adopt today. You know, oftentimes a trustee is not approved until the final bond resolution. And we could have done it that way, but in this case, because this is the very first issuance of the commission and trustees work on bond transactions a lot and they have a lot to add and offer, we thought it behooved us and made sense to get the trustee involved upfront now so that we can get their input on the indenture, which they have to administer. So the thought was we have a very short resolution that all it really should do would be to approve the appointment of Union Bank as the trustee. That's all I've got on that.
Hey, just maybe I'll go a couple more things. I'll turn it back over to you because I know Mr. Chairman, you'll lead us through the next steps. But just last slide, next steps today. Again, we're asking you to approve appointment of Union Bank and Trust as the bond trustee, and that's the resolution that Greg just described. During October and November, the remainder of October and the month of November, the NDOT working group, along with our advisors, will prepare the final documents leading up to your December meeting. And then finally, we will make that formal recommendation to you in December to approve the issuance of the bond. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on any of the three topics.
I have a couple of questions for the general public that hasn't reviewed these yet or hasn't seen these yet. I'm sure some of the questions that they may have is, are these tax-free both at the federal and the state level?
I believe they're both. I haven't looked into the state taxes, but they absolutely will be.
And then secondly,
We just add to Nebraska investors. If it's an Iowa investor, they don't get the Nebraska exemption, state exemption, but they do get the federal exemption. But any investors within the state of Nebraska will receive them, should receive them.
and then the second question I have is, for those people who may be listening or reading the minutes after the conclusion of this, who is the person or entity that's eligible to purchase these bonds? Is it going to be offered solely to institutions, or is it going to be offered to the general public?
I can take a stab at that. At this point, as Greg mentioned, we are envisioning an electronic auction process to determine the winning bidder of the bonds. Generally, a number of firms will go together in what's called a syndicate and bid the bonds together. Our expectation is that we'd have a number of different bidders making up many, many firms. And so it really ends up depending on who the winning syndicate represents and how many sales representatives they happen to have within the state of Nebraska. Their obligation is to literally, at the time that the auction closes, they know that they are the winning bidder, and they get very busy selling the bonds as quickly as they can. And generally, the bulk of the bonds will end up going to institutional investors. But within that wrap of institutional investors are money managers who do represent individuals in every state. And they're very big buyers. We call them SMAs, the separately managed accounts. Those money managers represent thousands of individual investors, what we might call retail investors. So they will get those bonds into their portfolios. And because these SMAs, these money managers are very, very much more active in the market now than they had been even 3 or 4 years ago. So we're certain that there will end up being a lot of retail investors. We just can't guarantee where those retail investors might be or who they might be, because we're not driving it through the process of determining who the winning syndicate, who the winning underwriter is, and where their representatives are to sell bonds.
But if we do a competitive auction, it's only underwriters that will get on.
Because I can envision someone coming up to us and saying, where do I go? Who do I contact if I'm interested in purchasing some of these bonds?
they should talk to their broker, and that broker can have his desk reach out to the desk of the winning bidder or any of the members of the syndicate on that day of sale. And generally, not all of the bonds get sold in the very first 2 hours or even the very first day. So generally, there are bonds available for other firms to step in and purchase if they would like.
And Commissioner Popple, I would also say that, these bonds are not being structured so that they can only be invested by institutional investors. They could be purchased by mom and pop.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe I think we have $5,000 minimum denom.
Correct.
Needed.
Thank you.
What's the timeline we're looking at?
For the sale, we're expecting.
So when NDOT gets the money and starts the process.
We are hoping to have the bond rating about the time that the commission meets again in December. Our expectation is that we would then be going to the competitive sale the middle of January. January tends to be a very favorable time to issue bonds, mostly because most investors, individual as well as institutional investors, really stop purchasing bonds around the middle of December. Their portfolios are where they want them to be, getting into the holidays, they're not active buying, yet revenues continue to come into investors. And by the middle of January, things are gearing back up again. And so folks have accumulated a lot of funds and have not put those dollars to work. So middle of January January as a whole tends to be a very favorable time to be issuing. And so that's our expectation and our plan. And then we would be settling the bond issue early in February, and the winning bidder would deliver all of the funds to NDOT on that settlement date, targeting it right now first week of February. And then the dollars are free to be invested and spent as needed on construction projects.
When we approve this indenture of trust, there's gonna be several blanks in it because you don't know the exact amount or the interest rate at that point. Shouldn't the resolution somewhere in here say you are authorized to issue up to 200 million?
And you will see that the up to 200 million will be there, Commissioner. And so you'll see that in the resolution.
Section 1.
Or is that section 1 of the resolution to approve issuance of bonds. It says not to exceed $200 million.
Yeah. The resolution itself, all of those blanks and bracketed items will be completed when we come to you in December 6th. The intent, you're absolutely right, we'll still have blanks because those items cannot be completed until after the sale.
Right, you don't know what they are yet.
Right.
And I understand why you're doing that. It makes perfect sense.
But the sale itself will have to comply with the resolution.
Correct.
And if we couldn't get a sale within that resolution, we couldn't make the sale.
Okay.
So how, I understand talking to Commissioner Koppel that you bid part of the project today. Are you confident that $200 million will do it? And as we were discussing, this is the first time Nebraska's issued bonds. We want to be darn sure this is a success, that it works. And if it came back in next July and, well, crap, we're $10 million short, we can't build the last 2 miles of this thing. There's gonna be a lot of egg on people's face.
If I may, first of all, I think, the up to 200 million is still in the draft form. This is not, you're not voting on that, obviously. And that'll give us a chance. We did receive favorable bids today. They're underneath, and I won't say the exact amount just for record because we have to evaluate.
Right.
But they came under the engineering estimate. So it's sort of looking pretty good from our perspective, but our team will be evaluating this and prorate really what that rest of that corridor will look like based on that bid that we receive. Reviewing some of the other stuff that we have, some of the additional risks that we may evaluate. And if we need to adjust that amount of some sort, I think we'll be reaching out to our team and trying to work it out.
And really, Commissioner Wolford, the scenario you described, let's say in the event, for some reason, the up to 200 million or the maximum up to 200 million turned out not to be sufficient. As Greg whispered to me a moment ago, that additional bonds language that's in the documents would authorize, we would have to come to the commission to get subsequent approval
Get more.
for an additional amount, but the commission could approve issuance of additional bonds if there was something like that.
And I absolutely agree with everybody. I would also add that the commission would have the ability to spend its own capital dollars to finish the project and reimburse itself if we chose to do that from a subsequent bond issue. So it's not like we even have to have a second bond issue timed perfectly to finish the project, the last $10 million. You could be paying for that out of other capital funds and then reimburse those revolving proceeds if you want to do that.
When does the department think you'll have this entire corridor bid? So you'll know what the costs are for this project.
I think at this point, Commissioner, two of the segments we are currently preparing. The third segment is not as far advanced. We believe that in late 26, we will have the actual, the last segment bid for the entire corridor.
Okay, so you're gonna have, when they issue bonds, you're gonna have money in the bank already with these bonds in the investment accounts that they just spoke about for when you bid the last segment, is what you're saying.
Well, that's a couple of things that, I was hoping Lynn might address that issue. At this point, the debate is, do we go after the entire piece and have that amount available for the entire corridor? Or do we issue 2 releases? I think that's one of the things that I think.
There is some flexibility there, but as Commissioner Wolford was stating, we do have the opportunity to invest the proceeds if they're not needed in the next year. And in the current conditions, it's pretty good. We'll have to be careful about what's called arbitrage yield and not earning more interest than the cost of the issuance of the bonds. But that flexibility is in the documents, as we said, is in terms of additional bonds. Of course, we would not be able to do any of that without first coming to the commission and having a subsequent resolution.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Any additional questions from the commissioners?
I'll move to approve resolution 2024 appointing Union Bank as the bond trustee.
Mr. Chairman, please make a statement on that. Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and hereby abstain from voting on the agenda item, vote on appointment of Union Bank and Trust as bond trustee as set forth in our agenda materials for this meeting. I have signed and filed a recommended form which reflects my intent, my vote on the same.
Thank you, Richard.
For sure.
It's been moved and seconded. Amanda,
We want to open up to the public.
do we want to do that before we
Or the
actually take action?
Yeah, let's do
It
that.
probably makes sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this time, we'd ask anybody in the public if they would like to come forward and address the commission on this bonding issue. We would ask that if you do, that you come forward, you state your name, you spell your name. And if you represent a particular entity or company, if you would state that, but now would be your time.
That's the gentleman.
Again, now is your time.
I think he wants to talk about something in District 4, not the bonds.
Could get something else.
Okay, if there's,
Mr. Chairman, I might make a few comments. This project primarily is in my district, and so I'm probably most familiar with it. As the commission knows, the department is finishing the section of 275 between just west of Hooper and west of West Point, and I believe that's going to have a ribbon cutting on November 4th. So the topic that we're here today to talk about is the continuation of the 4-lane 275 west of West Point to approximately 8 to 9 miles east of Norfolk. That's the stretch that this pertains to. And for those of you that may not be familiar with Norfolk, it is the economic engine primarily of Northeast Nebraska. It has major employers such as Tyson Foods. It has Nucor Steel, Volcraft, and Nucor Detailing, which are all subsidiary wings of Nucor Steel, which have huge amounts of truck traffic. Excuse me. There's also a company by the Norfolk Iron and Metal, which is a national steel company that with its corporate headquarters in Norfolk. There are other high-end, high traffic for truck purposes. There's a grocery warehouse facility, used to be known as Affiliated Foods, now known as AWG. And there's also now a new soybean crush plant located to the north of Norfolk. All of these businesses constantly share with me that this is an important project, an important goal to get the 4-lane expressway completed to Norfolk. As many of you know, there was a committee that was formed that hired Ernie Goss relative to the economics impact. And in his report, which he did back in 2015, he projects that this project, the completion of the 4-lane of 275, would have about $1.2 billion economic impact in the region over a period of time from 2015 to 2032. The statistics show us that per 100 miles, Highway 275 has primary metal production employees at the highest in the state, almost 5 times what the average is. It also has manufacturing employees that are in excess of the average in the state. And the people in the district constantly refer to an inadequate transportation infrastructure for Northeast Nebraska. They share with me that it impedes the local steelmakers, the manufacturers, the meat processors, livestock producers, farmers, and small businesses from accessing major markets across the state. The members of the districts that I speak with constantly are telling me that completing 275 corridor would enhance the economic, employment, service, healthcare, and educational connections for the surrounding regions. And they strongly request and encourage the commission to take formal action to approve this bonding. On a personal note, I was the chairman at the time that this came before the legislature. I came on behalf of the commission and went on behalf of the commission before the legislature and testified in support of the statute that would enable bonding. And so I, on behalf of my district and as a commissioner, I am strongly in support of the approval of the bonding for this particular project initially. And I look forward to the bonding being able to be used for other projects in the state of Nebraska that have been promised by the legislature for now decades.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I would say that I understand when you say that they've been talked about for decades. I've sat on 3 or 4 different study groups, and bonding was always something that came up just primarily to keep up with some of these projects, as you say, that were promised many years ago. And so I commend the legislature for listening and the commission for moving forward with this bonding project. So I think with that, Commissioner Wolford, didn't you already make a motion?
I second.
Seconded. So if you would call the roll.
Powerful,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Hendrick,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yeah.
Mello,
Yes.
Wolford.
Yes.
We do have a resolution for the commissioners to sign. This time, I would ask again, are there any other record, letters to be written into the record? If there are folks here, we'll back up a little bit. If there are folks here who would like to address the commission about projects that Wes presented or perhaps didn't present in District 4, we would entertain those comments at this time. Okay, I guess seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. If there are no letters, is there anybody online that would like to make a comment? Okay. Well, I would just like to thank everybody for all the work that's been done to get us to this point on this bonding. I know that it's not easy working both with the county and the city levels in my career. We've went through a lot of different bonding procedures and like you say, it sounds like you've got good people on board to make sure that we stay within the parameters that the legislature has allowed us for this bond issue. So again, we look forward to seeing you in December at our meeting. And with that, I would turn it back to Amanda to announce our public meetings calendar.
The next scheduled meeting is December 6, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. in the NDOT Central Complex at 1500 Nebraska Parkway in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Anything else from the commissioners? Wes?
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
With that, then if there's nothing else to be brought in front of the commission, I would adjourn the meeting.